Hello, investors. This is Zhang, portfolio manager at Revere Asset Management. Today is Friday, May 9th, 4:44 p.m. coming to you from Fort Lauderdale with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Stayed the market in a short-term uptrend. Fall through days, of course, April 22nd and April 23rd. Looking at the GROTECTION gauge, green arrows in market leaders in the short term. Medium term, we have a green sub arrow. Especially as this 50-day starts to flatten and turn up, we will officially deem the medium term into an uptrend. Long term still below the flattening and declining 200-day moving averages. Therefore, we still have a red arrow there. What happened today? Consolidation continued amidst China trade talks, which will happen this weekend in Switzerland. So that will be big. 21 over 21 in the list, down pretty much flat, down 0.03%. 11 up, 2 sideways, 8 down. Big 8 up 0.38%. RG8 down 0.17%. S&P down 0.07%. RSP down 0.02%. QQQ down 0.07%. QQEW up 0.24%. Dow Jones down 0.29%. Mid-caps down 0.08%. Russell down 0.16%. Global 60/40 equities bonds up 0.1%, and GROTECTION up 0.05%. Turbo was up 0.55%, and that's primarily due to our crypto holdings, which I will talk about. Heading right into the charts, as always, starting off with S&P 500. Let's see. You can see we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7-day consolidation, if you will. 21 EMA starting to continues to slope up and looking to make that intermediate bullish crossover. The 50-day is starting to flatten soon, and once we see the 50-day turn up, we have an intermediate uptrend. However, the key is still this 57.86 level along with a 200-day moving average. So we are at a critical juncture in the markets right now. RSP, similar thing, 176.32 is the key level at the 200 and 150-day. You can see this as a potential wedge as well. So we don't want to see this break and head for another leg down. If you can see that, wedging action could lead to that. S&P kind of has a similar wedging action as well. If you see it like this, and we want this to resolve to the upside, not the downside. So we will see how it plays out. QQQ on the weekly, similar thing. Wedging action. Go on the daily. This could just be building out a cup with handle here. And again, 493.62 is the key, and the 200-day, which is flat and actually perhaps starting to turn up here. QQEW closes above the 200-day moving average, but 126.64 continues to be a key level. This could potentially be a cup as well. And I want to see this blast through, test the tops of the base, put in the handle, and then maybe we're off to the races again. We just don't know yet. This is also a potential wedge as well on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. This was relatively weak today, still down, and we still have the flattening 200-day above and the 150-day moving average. Mid-caps, similar action with the others, wedging action like here, but wedges could resolve to the upside or downside. If we resolve to the upside, that is definitely bullish. Russell was down 0.16%. Similar action here. Those are the key levels and still far below the 200-day and 150-day moving average. It is constructive to see the VIX to continue the retreat. We want to see this get back below 20, back below the 200-day moving average, this level right here. And as we know, all the best uptrends are in low volatility environments. And that is exactly what we want to see with the VIX. The dollar, little daily head and shoulders here, and we continue to hold this weekly 99.58 UNR level. So perhaps we get a snap back to the 10-week moving average or the 200-day moving average. Gold continues to consolidate. Started to put in a small VCP here, but this highest volume, bearish engulfing, is concerning. We really just have lower highs so far. So we'll see where gold goes. But bearish engulfing on the highest volume, and see this weekly one is the highest as well in over 3 years. And that often can indicate a long base that must form, or at least an intermediate top. Gold miners actually acting better than gold, finding support at 21 EMA and building this little flag right here. Silver continues to base. Really hasn't done much. There's not much to talk about in silver. Bitcoin, I'm going to pan over to TradingView. Talk about it on the podcast with more detailed analysis. But Bitcoin was on the top of our list after it held the top of the previous base, resistance turned support, held a rising 40-week moving average, undercut, reclaimed the 76,500 level. Then we built this pivot, broke out this 85,000 area, and has been off to the races since. We are a little compressed on the right side, as you can see on the weekly. I would love to see some weeks tight, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks tight before we take on 107, 108K. This could happen at the end of May, early June. We'll just have to see how it plays out. And then, finally, looking at bonds, really no bond movement today. You can see the 1 year is up down basis point, 2 years up a basis point, 10 years flat, pretty much 30 years flat. So not much going on in bonds. And so that is it from the inter-asset correlation. I'm going to head to the tail of the tape. We're still operating in the bull case above the 21 EMA, and 21 is almost about to slope above the 50-day moving average. So that is a good sign. I want to emphasize that the NAM did go up 21 to 81. And this can continue to be more overbought to the 90s and even 100, but that is when we start to really have that worrying sign. News, really just China-US trade talks this weekend. That will be key. If we get something resolved, that could be the catalyst that sends the markets above their 200-day moving averages, which would be very positive, especially with leaders acting really well. Today's keys, we're watching the S&P versus the 50-day, which we closed above, 200-day, which we still closed below, Qs versus 50-day, closed above, and 200-day, we closed below. Day count, consolidation 6 to consolidation 7, 13 days above the 8 EMA, 12 days above the 21 EMA. Our expectations are positive. So when we look at the sectors, some up sectors, bond yields were up, barely though. Energy, real estate, and discretionary, gold, silver, oil and gas, semis, and uranium. On the downside, bonds, dollar, pharma, China, mega caps, and more pharma. In GROTECTION, we doubled Tesla, added PLTR, and we sold crowd. That leaves us at 0.94 beta, 3.29% rebar or open heat. In Turbo, we doubled Tesla, offensive trim again on Ethereum, and we sold CoreWeave, 0.997 beta, 5.27% open heat. And the bottom line is consolidation continues amidst China trade talks. So let's first go over Tesla, since both portfolios acted on it. Well, this is a pretty simple setup. We have this flat top right here, the 200-day. We retook the 200-day, and that was the buy. On the 5-minute, we pretty much took the 5-minute opening range break. Don added somewhere a little bit higher up here, but great action, consolidating. And look at the 60-minute, we're just flagging here. So this could be one of the situations where we break out next week. Palantir, GROTECTION, Don added to this one, inside day. Just another time to accumulate the stock. We do want to see this gap fill ASAP and this handle to complete. And that looks really good over 125.41. In GROTECTION, we also sold crowd, closed below 21 EMA. Really, we've held this for a few weeks now, and it really has done anything. So we ditched it. Earnings and sales are kind of slacking as well. Ethereum, this is another one we trimmed another 50% in the strength. You can see it's quite extended. Go on the actual Ethereum chart. I talked about this more on the podcast. This is a stage 4B minus setup, looking for a mean reversion into the 150-200, which is exactly what we got. Really, it's made a 30% move in 2 days, and we are left with 25% of our original position. We also doubled Tesla in TurboTection, and then we closed out CoreWeave as it broke 55 and just came in on us. So those are the actions of Grow and Turbo. Perhaps I'll do something a little different and I'll review all the positions in both portfolios. Of course, we all have SPLG, the S&P 500. We don't need to talk too much about that. Grow, As IBIT Bitcoin, really just amazing action coming out of this little flag, now testing the top of the base as Bitcoin tests 107 108K. I would love to see a handle form up here before we take out the highs. Another, and this is Grow, by the way. We bought this out of double bottom base, just trending perfectly in Netflix. TRS continues to act well. Really looking to build a pivot here, looking to breaking the new highs. Palantir, we talked about adding to this one, building cup with handle. Uber is also building really nice cup with handle and in a huge 1 year base, over 87, and this could be off to the races. GEV, also in a cup with handle, building a handle here. Hood, acting extraordinary, breaking out of this little cheat handle. And because the 10-week is still below the 20-week, I could see another handle potentially form right here. And that would be amazing for Hood. Tesla, again, talked about doubling it today. We have some HIMS, which after the earnings continues to act really strong. And then finally, Bros, pulling back a little bit today, still with the declining 50. So I do expect a little frustration and consolidation before we can get moving. There are many repeat names, so I'll just talk about the names that are unique to Turbo now. EWW, Mexico, continues to trend in the stage 2 breakout. We also have Spotify, which is holding right at all-time highs. MSTR is the last unique name, which is holding nicely above 400 with Bitcoin's strength. So now I will go to the 21 over 21 list, and then we'll wrap up the video. So 21 over 21 list. First name that was up, Tesla, the name that we both acted on. Chewy, looking to break out of this cup with handle. Cart, pretty sloppy left side. Nice earnings reaction, but pulling back. Really, there's still a lot of supply that needs to digest. So we'll see. This base is all over the place. So we'll just watch right now. Unactionable. Duolingo, another great earnings reaction name, just continues to trend perfectly. And when we see earnings reactions act this well, that is a great sign of strength in the markets. Here are some thinner names that we can't act on, but Dave, extraordinary earnings action as well. Cecil, but another software name in that fintech area. Oddity is too thin for us, but it's seen ants and gapped out of its IPO base on record earnings and revenues. QBTS is a quantum name that worked really well on earnings as well. And a lot of these EPs work the best out of huge bases from corrections. And when they do work and fall through, that is a sign of a strong market. We already talked about Bitcoin. Let's skip that. Boeing breaking out of its own cup of handle here. Great action there. Talked about CRS, talked about GEV, talked about HIMS, talked about Hood, Uber. GWRE broke out of this double bottom base, just trending nicely. Zscaler is another cyber name. And this is looking like to be the leader here as crowd pulled back. This broke out of a huge base. Relative strength new high as well before price. Netflix we talked about. Spot, LNG, natural gas was down a little bit, pulling back to 21 EMA. Palantir is down, but inside day, which we added on. Bros was down. Crowd we stopped out of. TKO had a huge bearish engulfing, so that's not a good sign after earnings. And finally, Carvana also rejected the left side peak so far. Perhaps we just need a handle here, but really good earnings, 557% year over year, 38% revenue growth. So that being said, we'll wrap up today's video. If you're interested in becoming a client or have any questions, you can email me at ted@revereasset.com. My Twitter X is Ted H. Zhang. Our phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH. That is 855-732-5932. Website is revereasset.com, and our YouTube is Revere Asset. As always, this is Ted Zhang with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your week, and have a good weekend.